it seemed as if it was in the minor key, you know, like the people were very human. They were very present in having their picture taken. And then it always seemed to me like there was a little shadow of darkness or something like that, or mystery. And that I always loved. And during the pandemic, when suddenly everybody's world changed, what I saw was, you know, Gordon had the series that he called Pandemic Portraits. And then there was like Pandemic Landscapes. And for me at the time, seeing this work, just, it seemed simultaneously comforting and appropriate for the times, and it just seemed like it kind of had this magical quality that, you know, in the pandemic I enjoyed watching it grow and watching it evolve, and it just felt like now to me, you know, and I thought that was very special. And then just due to some freak occurrence, somehow I got Gordon to photograph me, and it's not like I wanted a picture of myself, you know, at age 55. I didn't want that, but I wanted to see how he worked, and I forget how it came about. And the process of seeing him photograph was very liberating. Let's put it that way. It was nothing like I pushed the button 100 times. I think he made 2 exposures, and I think one of them didn't work out even, you know? And so to me, just seeing him work, and there was someone visiting us at the time that got to witness it, it was a great experience. And so I was so excited with this class. He was the kind of first person I wanted to invite here. And so many of you locally know Gordon as the, I guess, co-owner of Glass Key that sells analog gear. But I didn't want to focus on that for here. I wanted us to meet Gordon as an artist, get into his work, and I'm sure he'll answer questions on anything. But thank you, Gordon, for coming. Thank you.
Everybody, thanks for welcoming me. I've been shooting analog photography for about maybe 10 years now. Not even really sure how I got started. It's like anything else. I think some friends started shooting analog photography, so I ended up doing, you know, analog photography myself. Prior to that, I was pretty much a digital photographer. Interest in photography started back in high school when there was no digital photography, but at that point I was too lazy for the darkroom. So went to digital when it came out, then now full circle back to film photography. As Tim mentioned, I'm part owner of Glass Key Photo. So I see a bunch of you in there, but I'm also exposed to like the industry and what's going on, and kind of, you know, in touch with a lot of the film world and whatnot. So,
you know, it surprises me that you only, that isn't the story I thought I'd hear at all. Like, you've only been doing analog for 10 years.
About 10 years, yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Because I had always assumed that you were someone who started on film and just kept on it, never embraced digital, but that's not the case at all.
No, not the case. Honestly, to me, photography, when you talk about analog or digital, it's all medium for me, right? It's just wherever fits my needs at that time. Digital was perfect because I didn't have to be in the darkroom. It was easy. You know, you carry the camera wherever you want. You don't have to worry about film. So it's a perfect medium to get me really deeper into photography. And now that I'm at a point where I'm just not shooting my everyday life anymore, I'm more purposeful with my shooting. Film kind of lends to that for me because I slow down with my photography. Shooting this camera here, especially, it's a very slow process when you shoot large format. It's not like, you know, a minute or two. You're talking about at least 15 minutes per shot or so. So that's how it kind of came out.
Oh, interesting. So 10 years. So we're in 2022. So you started in 2012.
Roughly around there, yeah.
When did you open the store?
A little after that. So the story, it's a quick rundown of the story. Matt had Glass Key Photo, my other business partner, and he did only film supplies and all that. I opened a gallery with him as a co-owner of the space.
That's right.
And I had a partner, and it was called 4x5. We were kind of highlighting emerging artists in the city. Unfortunately, that didn't go so well. So Matt and I decided to continue the business, and I added the camera side. So I share the camera side with Matt. That's kind of how it started.
Oh, that's fascinating. No, I remember you were at another location.
Yes,
and
okay,
it was a gallery and
correct.
Sold some things.
Yeah, correct.
And then Matt's background was working at New Lab.
I worked at New Lab, correct, for many years, among other lives that he had. But that was his most recent life before I think he opened up Class Key.
Right. Oh, fascinating. You know, before we look at all the gear that you brought, I thought, why don't we get into the
You had a
images?
question. Should I answer that first?
Oh,
or-
yeah,
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah, do you still have a gallery?
I don't. That only lasted about 2 years. And we knew going in, it would be really tough to run a gallery,
Yeah.
especially for two guys who didn't have any experience running a gallery. We really enjoyed it, but we knew that it just couldn't maintain itself. We were not doing, as well as we hoped. So
And that you said was 4x5. Was the
4x5
name
gallery,
So it's, I'm assuming it was a large format.
no, it was just a
That's what you
name.
called it?
Yeah, we couldn't come up with a name. So we came with that.
And was that on a timeline of your analog photography,
Mhm.
when you started getting into analog 10 years ago? How soon after that did you guys open the gallery?
I started maybe 2 years, 2+ years. Everything kind of blends in now. I took class at City College. I was changing careers at the time, didn't know what I wanted to do. And I started doing a little bit of film photography. And I heard that City College had a great film department there. So I started taking classes here and there. And Matt also went to City College as well as my partner. And that's kind of how we knew each other.
So when you say film, did you mean like you were doing actual
Analog,
film, or do you mean-
still photography. I'm sorry, still photography. I don't do anything motion, so
Yeah. Thank you.
sure, no problem.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I think it's gonna be like this, like I'll try to guide you and then
Yeah.
people will have questions and I think,
I'm more than happy to answer questions.
oh, good. And then we have Zoom people here who will have questions as well. So why don't I try to queue up your work here
Yeah,
and we can introduce your work.
okay.
And then Jared, do you recall where that is?
Yeah. I have it all already.
All right.
I got up on all 41 images.
I have 41 images, so we can go pretty fast if you need to.
Take your time. I think it's good.
Look who I started with.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's flattering.
I'm not gonna be on the camera anymore, so I can set this aside, so, see, should I move the camera, so another way too, for the students?
They can see, stay where you are.
Okay,
Yeah, and we'll film you talking.
Everyone can see his work.
am I in your way or anything, if I stand here?
Yeah, we can see it also on Zoom.
Okay,
So let's do that.
Do you want to go through his work?
Yeah, I'll be the one moving it.
you guys recognize the classroom?
Absolutely. So that's not this classroom, but that was something that looked very much like a classroom. So, it's interesting. I wanted you to share an anecdote as we get into the work about, I had asked you to, do you have digital files of everything? And then you essentially had an answer to that.
I did. So I took him, I have digital files, but I took them with my iPhone with the negatives and converted everything. Simply because most of my image, I prefer to print.
Right.
I mostly work with print, even though I haven't been doing a lot of printing lately. So I don't put a lot of effort into scanning these guys. So what you see in front of you is actually work I took with my phone on the light table, then just inverted it and touched it up through my phone.
So that looks very good.
Not bad, right?
Yeah. So, have you printed this project?
I printed some. I actually have some prints, but they're digital prints from these guys because I wanted to do a quick one because I had a critique group. I want to look at it.
Right.
I printed maybe, 10 images only from this project so far.
Right.
So more so my night photography, the portraits are kind of pushed aside, at least for the printing side.
Right.
So
Right. Interesting. So, all right, let's kind of go through this.
Yeah, sure.
And so, what did you do before? Oh, let's see. Do you know how to move this one? What did you do before this project?
photography wise,
Yeah, did you have a project or were you just shooting random things?
sad to say, but before this project, I was going for a bit of a lull. Wasn't really doing any kind of projects or anything major for past 5 years.
Yeah.
Before that, I was shooting I was shooting people actually, which I didn't do until, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So I did a portrait series with models and, had a bit of a lull like we all go through. It wasn't until pandemic where, I had the opportunity to really dive into it, the time and opportunity to dive into it and do some other new projects.
So was it because of the time or because the world changed or what? You
I
know,
would say you mean where I got back into it or the low part?
no, I think we've all had lulls and we
Right.
know those things,
Uh-huh.
but I
Well,
think,
like how I got back into shooting.
yeah.
Actually, the times. It was a large part because there's 2 projects I started, the pandemic portraits as you see in front of you. And the pandemic nights, which I think Tim has mentioned as well. And they're mixed in through this presentation here. The pandemic portraits are great because, I just kind of miss seeing people. So it's really good to give me an excuse to go out to see people. Most people I shot were people I know in one fashion or another. So it's giving me an opportunity to go out there, be creative, and yet also meet with people and just chat. Half the times I'm out there, I spend maybe 3/4 of the time just talking to people, seeing what they're up to, and just make sure everyone's okay. Pandemic nights is great because you're out there in the middle of the night with no one around you, so you don't have to worry about wearing masks or people, the disease around you or anything. So it was a great opportunity for me to fill time at night, which I got tired of watching Netflix movies.
Oh, yeah.
So I was ready to go out there, get some fresh air and start shooting. I started shooting by myself in the very beginning. And then kind of moved on to having another friend shoot with me. So, I have a partner in crime at night sometimes.
Wow. Can we go back to that the last landscape? So, I mean, what would be the words that you would use to describe the landscapes?
I think the first word that always comes on my mind, and I feel like it runs throughout all my photography. It's kind of more the style, like I really like quiet feeling images, right? I feel like even way back when I was doing landscape before this and people, I like it quiet. I don't like a really busy scene.
Yeah,
It's just like a solitude for me.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's just something where I feel like I'm in that moment and I'm only in that moment, and that moment is mine.
yeah,
So
yeah. They always felt to me, your landscapes felt like, oh, I can totally see the photographer having an introspective moment where he wanted to get out of the house and just kind of be by himself in the land with the camera, bringing whatever that experience is. Like to me, the landscapes weren't as much about the landscape as it was like, I felt like it was about the photographer or something like that. Yeah, they're very beautiful. They're very unusual.
thank you.
What would be the words you'd use to describe the people photos?
I feel like a lot of these images, the people are what's the word I'm looking for? It's like almost like they're looking into themselves almost.
Yeah,
I definitely try to capture more than just a portrait of someone. I wanted to feel their soul a little bit, right?
yeah.
Moment. So I mean, I don't know the exact word I'm looking for, but that's kind of how I see it. Or when I try to shoot something, I also not only look for the scenery to create a story, but also I really want a piece of that person somehow. And I think that's kind of what a portrait's about, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. That's beautiful.
One question.
Mhm.
You shot everything on 4x5?
Correct. Well, everything that's portrait, the element shop on the Hasselblad square.
Oh, okay. I saw the square and I got a little.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I should explain that. Yeah, that was Hasselblad. Didn't want to carry this on tonight.
The Hasselblad nighttime stuff,
Mhm.
what film were you using?
I'm using Acros. And just a little technical reason why I'm using it. I really like, first of all, I really like Acros because it's really good midtones. And that's kind of like, I don't like really contrast. I like really beautiful midtones. So it kind of led to that. But more importantly, Acros has a very low reciprocity failure. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but film generally, you know, time to exposure is a linear path up to about a second or so, depends on the film. Then it tails off. So you have to add more time to get the equal amount of exposure that you had at the front end of the curve. Acros is pretty good that it keeps steady all the way up to maybe 10 minutes or so. So let's say you use a film like Tri-X. At 2 minutes, you might be at really 4 minutes if you do it correctly to get the proper exposure. Whereas Acros will be 4 minutes. You know, I might add a little bit, but not much more. Yes,
When you say this, are you talking about particularly evening or even the daytime?
anything long exposure is what I'm referring to.
So all your night stuff.
So,
All my night stuff. Daytime, you're still in the front half of the curve where it's linear. It's only when you get past a second. So most of my portraits are, you know, normal shots, so they're not long exposures.
And does that film have different ISOs or is it just?
The Acros is right now it's only 100. They used to have a 400, but that's long gone. Yeah, that's just 100.
So that's why exposure is so.
Yeah, and then, you know, at nighttime, I'm on a tripod, so it doesn't matter how long for me. So
Great, thank you.
you're welcome.
Acros is the film.
Acros, Fuji Neopan Acros 100 is the full name for it.
Is it made for, what's it made for?
It's regular black and white film, but it just happens to have a really good reciprocity failure or lack of, I guess.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's my film of choice for both nighttime and for my pinhole, because both of them are long
you start
exposures.
this industry.
I'm sorry,
You start the film industry.
do we have, yes, we have that film at Poetic, correct. You're welcome.
What do you choose, sorry, I mean, you can tell me if it's like, off topic, but. So you have this film that you choose because of that the curve doesn't curve out, right?
Uh-huh.
And when you print, what's the paper that you choose?
Good question. It just depends on what I'm trying to do. I think I talked to Heaven yesterday about that. If I'm doing my normal ones, I like using like a fiber-based glossy. The glossy will give you more contrast, so your blacks will look blacker, more detail in your blacks. For something like my pinhole work, I like something soft because it kind of lends to that work for me, at least. So I use a matte finish fiber paper for that. And I did bring samples of that because I wanted to show him what I was talking about, so you can see it later.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Wow. Hey, can we go back a couple pictures? So when in the portraits, the work is, a lot of times it looks like you're not even giving direction, like they're just standing there.
Uh-huh.
And then there's other ones that look like they gotta be orchestrated. Like, there's one that almost looks like it's a hospital or something. There's a foreground background, go forward. That, what's happening there and how did you put those pieces together?
Sure. This is actually my best friend in the background, and I took a picture of him earlier. That's his wife. You know, honestly, when I take these shots, I pre-visualize kind of what I'm looking for, an idea like kind of what I want.
Yeah.
But I don't really have a lot of direction, and I think you saw that a little bit when I shot you, and Jared when I shot you. I just had this idea of her. She was, you know, a fairly new mother. The kid's like a year or 2 old, 2 years old at that point. And I wanted them in the background, but I didn't want them to be my centerpiece. I wanted her to be a centerpiece. It's actually not a hospital, but in front of a cabin or a building, a house in Sea Ranch.
Oh, okay. So I mean, walk us through the process. Like, are you like, all right, stand back there, and you be in the foreground, or do they just align themselves? Or what?
You know, you give me too much credit. Honestly, like, you know, I usually like scout the place and kind of have an idea of, like, again, kind of pre-visualize part of my shot, right? Like
Okay.
kind of idea of what I want. And then as I set them up, if they're standing in a certain area, I usually, you know, if they're standing in a certain area, you know, it's kind of close to what I want. I go, that's perfect, but turn this way. Or
Yeah,
move over that way, just kind of finalize the finished look I want.
right.
But I'm kind of organic in my shots, at least for the portrait shoot.
Yeah,
There's very few where I really set them up. I'll meet them at somewhere and I'll scout the place either before or with them and just go shoot, hoping I get a good shot.
Right. It was interesting. When you did photograph me, you were very focused on the type of room you wanted to be in.
Yes.
And we looked at probably 10 different rooms throughout the entire
Yes.
building here. We had access to every single room. No, yes, that's the one. So you knew exactly what you wanted to shoot. And then in terms of like, we had somebody with us and stuff, and you just kind of let everybody just do their own thing. You know what I mean? Where I was almost like, when's he going to tell me what to do? But yeah, that's kind of what you were saying about that.
Yeah, it's a little more organic. I'm not trained as a portrait photographer at all. It's just more, I know what I want, and if I see it, I'll direct it to get to the point.
Right.
That's kind of how I operate when I do portraits.
Yeah. Interesting. How expansive was this project?
I haven't counted yet, but I'm guessing I'm over 100 now, maybe 120 or so.
Oh, that's a
With
lot.
different people. I have reshot people too, because there's shots that I go, I want this person and I want a good shot with them. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I had to reshoot a few people as well. So,
Right. What would make you choose your subject?
As I mentioned to you, it's mostly people I know. There's a few people that I shot that I didn't know, and unfortunately those didn't make my cut usually, or not usually, but just didn't make my cut.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I just shot friends and just almost anyone just to talk to people. So
Right.
I kind of chose the people I wanted to talk to, I guess, in the beginning.
Yeah.
But as I went along, I kind of looked for someone that had a more interesting look, or like this one here. She was she worked in the airlines, and I thought she contacted me actually and says, "Hey, I love your portrait series. Can you shoot me?" I'm like, "Yes, I know where to shoot you too."
Oh, you didn't know her at all?
I did. No, I went to college with her. But she
Oh,
contacted
okay.
me, yeah.
Yeah.
So, she's not a photographer, but she's my friend. She follows my work and everything.
Yeah.
So, we couldn't get in past security area, so we found this spot. So, I just look for people that, that are interesting, either, what they do, so I can have a scene that's interesting
Yes.
along with the person, or someone that has, some unique look to them,
I love this one. Perfect. We know immediately where that is. You know what I mean? That it's an airport. And then the wardrobe of her, you know what I mean? Like the high-end stewardess, flight attendant.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And then
Thank you.
flights were so much an issue, you know what I mean?
Yes,
With the
very much so.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, you did that one around the time we got together. I remember you
I
telling me
think a
about that.
little bit before.
Yeah, or you showed it to me or something like that. What was the story there?
Well, that's my cousin's friend, and she's a photographer as well. Her work is, she's, I know she works for the city, and she does like, I think she works for plants.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly where her title is, but I've always wanted to shoot this plant here. I don't know if you're familiar with this one. There's like little balls, and they're colorful, like pastel pink, pastel purple.
Yeah.
And they kind of remind me of Cat in the Hat,
Oh, yeah.
scene,
Yeah.
So I thought she was a perfect person to put in this situation. So actually, this is one I actually did set up and had her come out to that location and shoot this one.
You knew where the place
Can I
was.
ask a question real quick?
You
Yeah.
got her to meet you. Oh, yeah.
Question?
Sorry, did you use any filters or anything for this, or was that just a straight shot?
The only filter I use for my shooting is a neutral density filter, simply because this lens wide open and this camera setup can only go up to, I think, 1,000 per second. So if it's too bright, I have to put a neutral density. Other than that, I don't use any color or black and white filters at all.
Did you suspect there was a filter used, John?
I was just wondering, you can't tell what the color of those little balls were, but I didn't know if like an orange filter to kind of
To make them pop a little bit.
down some of the blues or not.
I did not use, I do have actually a color slide shot of this one somewhere in my world.
It's really,
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Yep, and I'll send you a copy so you can see what they look like in color.
I think you had shown me the color. I
I
think
might
that's what we
have.
were talking about.
Yeah.
They're like a white, and white, aren't they? They're those little puff balls, right?
They're puff balls, but they're pink and like a light pink, a light purple, maybe some white. They're all along Lincoln Boulevard, like right by the park. So you can see them all over there. And I kind of live there, so I see them every day when I drive by.
Ah, interesting. I love that portrait.
So
So something like this, are you lighting this or is this just a natural light?
it's
or-
natural light.
It is.
Yeah.
So is this film forgiving, if you know what I mean, as 4x5
Most
film?
most black and white is fairly forgiving. This particular one, I believe, shot on Ilford FP4. My two main films I use are FP4 and HP5 for my large format. They're easily available and they're just great film.
Right.
So I really love that film. But yes, it's fairly forgiving just because it's black and white negatives and they're pretty forgiving.
Right. You're using a light meter.
I am losing light meter, correct?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. See, there's something about these portraits that I feel like I can't, well, let's turn this to the students. So what are the words that come to mind with these portraits for you all? Does anyone have any thoughts?
Hey, Tim,
Yeah.
I'll behave. They remind me of like tilt shift photography where like the objects are actually like miniature
Oh, a bit. Yeah.
because it's such a narrow, depth there, tiny. And so everything, so it's kind of like those miniature, even like it was really apparent in the flight attendant and some of the previous ones. They almost look like figures, that were placed there. Also the girl that was sitting on the cabinet, like you can't tell what the size of the person is because of that.
Oh, there is a disorientation maybe that comes
So,
from that.
I will address that.
It's
I-
nice, by the way, it's pretty, but I'm just saying it has this effect.
I agree with you. I think part of it is this one is a little tilted by nature, but it's a very slight tilt. So it might have some tilt shift aspect to it. But I have been playing with some tilt shift in my newest portraits. So very good observation.
Oh, interesting. So this picture is crazy good. Like, are you lighting her face or is there just a
I believe
window?
I am. I can't remember now. I did bring my lights to her place. I shot at her place several times. I call it the Pug House. It's in Oakland. And before she moved in, I was able to photograph her whole place.
Yeah.
And she had one room that had pug wallpaper. It was fabric wallpaper. It was amazing, simply amazing house. And for this one, I believe it was lit because her house is not super well lit.
Yeah.
So I think I had the hot light shining from the side.
I mean, there's something about, obviously there's a splendor to this house though, that suddenly feels important or dramatic or something. And there's something about, like the series has this feeling that we're looking at like all of society or something like that. Like we're looking at a little kid at a playground, and then we're looking at the stewardess, and then we're looking at what to me seems like wealth to some degree, and then there's me, the school teacher, and it had this feeling of who's that? There was that guy that photographed all those people in their jobs, August Sander. Do you know who that is?
I didn't remember. Yes.
Yeah, German photographer who photographed like the baker and the butcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and categorize them by jobs. And I'm wondering, do you think that was an influence, or is that something that wasn't even on your radar, or?
That was on my radar in the fact that I was trying to get a diversity of people. And I think I have to address that part of it when you asked me how I chose people. I did try to get diversity of people, age, ethnicities, a little bit of everything, because I wanted to represent people around me, and I just want to make sure like I get a good representation of people that I know.
Yeah.
As far as influence from was it Saunders, is it?
Oh, August Sander.
Sanders. That's
Yeah.
right. I am familiar with that word. Maybe in my subconscious, maybe.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
not
yeah.
in the foreground of my conscious.
Yeah, right. You weren't trying to do an homage. To
No, but yes.
Let me read some of the things coming in on the chat.
Oh, sure,
And
absolutely.
some of these might end up being questions.
Oh my goodness, this work is inspiring. I love how traces of the tree limbs are outside the window, but the repetition in ceiling lamp is juicy. What photo was that?
That was the
Gary?
one that you were talking about earlier.
Oh,
What
that's,
you're referring to as being reminiscent of wealth.
oh, yeah,
I think we're all
yeah.
pretty blown away by that.
Yeah.
I did choose because of that window and the trees though, so that was part of my thought process.
Oh, you knew that.
It seems like the room is so huge just because of the depth of field that you've got. It makes the room look like it's a mile long.
Oh. It's a normal size dining room. It wasn't super big, but it wasn't a small one either though.
Now, did you purposely, it looks like the camera level is below head height. Did you do that just to kind of separate from the background, or was there a thought process behind camera height in that image?
Like I knew she was sitting down and I didn't want to look down upon her. So I did lower it to, a more eye level or slightly below eye level for her. That was kind of my thought process behind that.
Yeah, I love that picture.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very compelling. There's a lot of conversation in the chat here about your composition. And let me turn to the students here. Anna Rose, did you have any observations? That I see you, I can't read the whole chat, but is there something you wanted to ask or say about just compositional rules here?
Yeah, Gordon, you're stunning in how you see a scene and compose. You obviously use a lot of thirds in placing of your subject. Like I think of the one that you showed us earlier of the mom that you said had a 2-year-old son, and you placed the dad and the son blurred, but in the background. Just your I don't know if you do it naturally or if it's intentional, but your composition is just really stunning. And then combining that with the lens. And I did want to ask you what was the lens you said you used, or I don't know if you talked about the lens. I know you talked about the camera, but
Let me address the camera first, because it's probably easiest. I am using something called a aerial XR lens.
I'm going to turn on the light here.
Yep. So let me do that way. Yeah. So it's called aerial XR lens made by Kodak. There's
Okay.
different focal lengths. This particular one is a 178, which is roughly a bit longer than a 50 in 35 format.
okay.
This is really originally a aerial reconnaissance lens during the World War II era. So it was actually made to be taken from an airplane down and spying on the land, right? Amazing thing about this lens is that it's the f-stop is a 2.5 in a large format. And that's equivalent to maybe like a 0.75 in 35
Wow.
terms. So really
Okay.
shallow to the field. It's paired with a speed graphic body, which is a large format press photographer that Ouija used to use. Simply because this lens is a barrel lens, meaning there's no shutter in it. So this particular model of the speed graphic has a rear curtain shutter that gives me capabilities of having a shutter on this setup. Any other questions about the camera before I move on?
No, I was just saying that the combination of the gear you use with your artistic interpretation of the scene is the other thing I noticed too is it almost makes your images look 3D. It almost looks like you can reach in and grab the people. It definitely doesn't come across as a 2D image. And I think a lot of that has to do with the bokeh, that you have a strong bokeh in the background and in the foreground, which really yields to it. I mean, they're lovely. Your work is lovely. And I love portraits, and these are stunning.
Thank you. As for my composition, honestly, like I tend to like, if you see my past work, I tend to put my subject smack in the middle. And I really liked that for a while. I went through a phase, I was doing a lot of that. And when I was starting this portrait project, I started doing that and realizing, okay, maybe too much. If you have like a whole series of people standing in the middle, I feel like it won't be as dynamic. So I started thinking a little bit more. So it was a conscious decision to do some of these with, rule of thirds or not smack in the middle at least.
Mhm.
So I did have some conscious thoughts as I was composing my images.
Nice. There is a big demand here. What is the lens? Is, I guess, John Rogers says Kodak Aero XR 178 millimeter?
Correct,
That's it?
2.5, f2.5,
F2.5.
correct.
And you had told me that there is a bit of a buzz about this lens now.
There is,
This lens.
there's kind of a cult following for this. A lot of newer shooters are, moving on from 35 medium format and shooting large format. And I feel like unlike the previous world of photography, a lot of people like shallow depth of field. They're not so much into landscape per se, but like shooting people and things that, are closer up. So this has gained a lot of popularity among people who like shooting shallow depth of field cameras and lenses. So
Right.
bit of a cult following. These guys used to be so cheap because they're at army supply stores or they're just really cheap back then, and they're expensive now. They're close to $1,000 just for a lens now just to buy.
Oh, because of the following?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, interesting. The, let's see, I'm gonna, it's a little dark. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So do you feel like, oh, wait, let's talk about this picture. What's happening here?
This is Grady. He's a photographer for, I think his guy's name is G-Eazy. I think his name is. Anyone know him?
Oh,
Yeah, so he's a photographer for him, and he's one of my customers. And I said, Grady, man, I want to shoot you. So I went to his house, and he just had a birthday party. And I saw the garbage there, I saw the balloon, I go, sit down. So this is a post-birthday party with him in the morning. So he kind of, has a morning vibes after his party.
that's great. So do you feel your pictures are funny, or are they tragic, or are they ironic, or,
I think I have a mix of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I feel like this one has a bit of humor to it,
Yeah,
right? I think other ones are very solemn and I don't know if tragic. I don't know if any of mine are tragic necessarily, at least not in my eyes
right,
when I take it. But some are more serious than others.
right.
And again, that's just wanting to add variety to my portrait series and not having a very, one-dimensional feel to it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, whatever tone you're hitting is on target. Now, it's almost like I feel like there's really two bodies of work here that we're like wrestling with. The portraits, they're phenomenal. Let's go back one. With the landscapes, there's a mood the landscapes have that the portraits don't have, and let's turn this to the class. What would you say that is?
I was actually thinking that even though they're so radically different, that there's a similarity to them that, you were saying that sort of sense of isolation, right? When you go and photograph at night. And I feel like a lot of that portraits that you have, even the one with the mother, that's her baby, well, we know now, the baby and the father in the background. There seems to be a certain sense of isolation, both in the locations that you have, and I think the mask also probably contributes to that. So I was actually thinking that there was a similarity, but when I look at this, there's, of course, it's very different to the portraits, but that and sense of space is similar to me in the two formats. The two, not formats, but
Yeah, the two bodies of work. Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely overlap, and I do accept them as one. Well, let's see, for those of you on Zoom, is there anything you feel you're seeing in the landscapes that's not in the portraits, or vice versa?
Well, the depth of field, there's a lot more depth in the landscape, but the landscapes, some of them kind of look like they came right out of like a Doctor Who movie or TV show. They're a lot more I guess alien looking,
Yeah,
just because of the I don't know, the composition, the way everything's set up, it just kind of feels more alien. The one earlier where it had, I think it was a light post. That one really stood out. It was quite a ways back, but it almost felt alien to me, I guess.
oh, yeah, no, I know the one, it had that big,
Yeah, that one. Whereas even the portraits that kind of feel more solemn, even those, I mean, they feel more light and airy. There's more highlights and middle tones. The landscapes are a lot more shadow, kind of hiding what's behind.
Landscapes, at least what we have here, we've seen are very atmospheric. And that in and of itself creates a different atmosphere, I think. And maybe one of the other differences too is that Anna Rose spoke to your sense of composition, but there's a lot of linear elements in your landscapes that are very obvious, and maybe you have that in the portraits, but we don't see them because they're abstract rather than.
yeah, no, that, you know, the one thing I got, maybe what I was hunting for is the landscape seemed to have this sense of wonder to them. You know, this kind of like, can we see the one of the guy with the flashlight or something like that? It's in here. That, like, there's a mist and there's the dreaminess, which is a phrase that we said we weren't going to use anymore. And here I am using it. There is, but no, the sense of wonder, like, look at this splendor in front of me, you know? And to me, the landscapes all seem to carry that, where the portraits seem to have a lot of different emotions in it. Like, some are ironic and some are solemn and some have a hint of humor in it. But then it seems like if you take it as one body of work, there's just this like kind of emotional release with these landscape pictures where it seems like, I don't have to wrestle with all these human things. I'm just gonna enjoy this, you know? You know, and it's funny, we looked at the work of Alex Soff. I don't know if you know that photographer who did a project on Niagara Falls. And have you seen that?
I don't think I have.
A lot of portraits of people that he meets, like kind of taking a little vacation at Niagara Falls. But then he mixes it with these kind of just landscape pictures of the falls, like the falls at night and the falls in the day, and there's all this mist. And it works in the series in the way these work for me, that it's almost like, all right, here's the people and we have our life and we have all our emotions. And then there's just like a break where you can just enjoy, you know, and that's what these seem to me to be like. You know?
My critique group did throw out the suggestion to combine the two. They felt that it was that it could complement each other.
Yeah.
So that's good to hear you say that.
Yeah, no, it builds on each other. And I think, yeah, absolutely. What is your group that you're in?
It's just a group of friends. I started a critique, a more advanced critique group through Glass Key at one point, and it's ended up being my group after a while. So it's just you know, a bunch of I would say a little more skilled level photographers that, you know, has experience critiquing and, you know, been photographing for a while, and then we just get together every once in a while to do critiques. So
yeah,
it's always good to have other people to you know, bounce ideas back and forth with. So
for sure. For sure. Yeah, and there's the idea that right now in school, they have more contemporaries than they're ever going to have, you know,
very much so.
And after school, you have to hunt these things down.
You do,
you know?
yeah.
We had Jenny Sampson as a guest. Do you know her?
Yep.
And she kind of echoed the same thing. She's very active in the East Bay Photo Collective, you know, and it's like, no, I need my peers, you know, I need to have a vocabulary.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, you see things through one pair of eyes, and sometimes you just need like several set of eyes just to give you a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, the landscapes still are like, I almost feel like it's hard to give both bodies of work the attention they need here. Yeah, they are, and they're all at night, right?
yeah, they're all night shots.
That's great. What's the story here?
You know, it's funny, I actually, before we got to her place to shoot, I had this vision of her. So I wanted to see her tattoos,
Yeah,
and I just wanted her to look straight in the lens and give really intense stare, 'cause she's kind of an intense person.
yeah.
So I kind of pre-visualized what I wanted with her, and we found a spot and just went and took it.
Oh, it was that simple. You kind of knew what you wanted.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I feel like as I get older as a photographer and more experienced, the pre-visualization is really important for me. It helps me kind of really hone in on what I want and what I like in a shot, you know.
Can you elaborate? Like, what is that pre-visualization?
I mean, I think when I was younger, I was more like, oh, willy-nilly, like, oh, I'm gonna see what I see when I get there, kind of thing.
Oh, react to what's there.
Yeah, kind of. And like now, like it's I guess two parts, right? Like thinking ahead of like, oh, I can see this person in this kind of situation, you know. And then when you get there, the other part is pre-visualizing it in front of you, right? Saying this needs to be here, this needs to be here, rather than, you know, just reacting, like you said, reacting to the scene in front of you, right? And just leaving it be, like knowing what you want in your shot and visualizing it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of that's spooky vibes.
Oh, let's go back to the one of Jared. So here you're photographing Jared, and then it happened to be October and the place is decorated. So you just embraced that.
Yeah, I did. I took 2 shots. I did do one with a you know, more of a traditional lighting, just, you know, everything lit. And I just had this idea of like just making Jared as scary as I could, you know. Yeah, I just went with it, you know, the idea, you know, just kind of popped in my head once I saw the scene. I'm like, oh, this is kind of what I want. And I did bring, that's the hot light shining from, I guess, between, you know, where the entrance area is at him.
Then is there another light at his feet?
Yeah, we did. That's right. I forgot. Because I think when I was looking, it looked too dark down there. I knew his legs would get lost.
Yeah.
So I think we grabbed that. That was your light, right? From
Yeah.
something from the room, the checkout room.
And did you use strobe or did you use flash?
No strobes with this camera.
Use that.
It's a continuous light, and it's a hot light. So that's gonna, they use it for like Super 8s usually.
Uh-huh.
So it's continuous and really hot. But you know, for this one, because it's a rear curtain shutter, you cannot use strobes. At least I haven't figured out a way yet. And from everything I read, no one else has either.
So I have a question back to the combining the 2 bodies of work. Did your group specifically think this body of work with landscapes? Because I know you have other.
Specifically this one.
Okay.
I was supposed to make some prints for them to, because we only do prints, we don't do
This.
you know, digital, like, you know, projected images. So I didn't have all my prints together, but I think the next time we're gonna like throw them out and see if it actually works together visually.
Because you have other bodies of work with humans in it that I think would,
We'll work on the night stuff.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think this can too, but just the ones like, I can only remember on the website, I can't remember all the images, but the woman, like with the skirt,
Was she standing in the chair?
yes, like that series, I could totally see like interspersed
I can
with
see that, sure. Yeah,
this stuff too.
thanks.
Oh, interesting. What is going on here?
This is Ivan's a character. So when I went to say, you know, I asked him to photograph him because I would love to get a photograph. All right, so I went to his place and he goes, Gordy, I don't want to put my mask on. I go, Ivan, this is my pandemic portrait series.
Yeah.
You have to wear a mask. So I said, I'll compromise. I'll take a picture of you without your mask as a regular portrait, and then we'll shoot my portrait that I want. So I took a shot of him and I said, okay, I'm gonna sit there. I want you right there. I'm set the camera, I turn around, he has this mask on. He's such a character. And I'm like, oh my God, it can't be any more perfect for you, Ivan. This is perfect. So I ran with it, and it was a fun shoot with him. It was a really fun shoot.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that one is more theatrical than your normal,
A
than
little bit
your
more. Yeah,
traditional in this project.
yeah, much more so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, it's his character that comes out, I think, more than me setting that part up for him, obviously.
Right. No, that's a great picture though. So mundane. And then there's that, Oh, that's the final image.
That's it.
Oh.
I purposely put that as a final.
Oh, that's great.
Strong,
That's great.
strong start, strong finish, right?
We plowed through these images
We
there,
did.
Gordon. Hey, this was a great slideshow. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
So your gear is so unique here. Let's see if there's any questions, and then we'll have you show your slides and everything, or your light and
Oh,
everything.
yeah, sure.
And then let's just kind of open it up to our Zoom folks as well. Does anyone have any questions? Garen, you've been very active on the chat here. Do you want to share any of your observations?
Yeah. First of all, I am just blown away by this work, and I've been typing about it. I'm a fanboy in the chat, but one of the questions that popped into my head was I was just curious about the impact of seeing so many photographers like come and go on a daily basis, talking with them and also seeing their work, and how it like affects you as an artist, because that's kind of unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I don't see a lot of work. Are you talking about like my customers, you mean, or?
Yeah.
I don't get to see a whole lot of work from my customers, but I mean, I absolutely draw inspiration from the people who work I see, as well as not even photography, just other things I see that just go, oh, like I can see that in an image, or that's a beautiful scene that I can incorporate. So I just feel like I'm still learning as a photographer, just kind of always like trying to be creative. So talking to people, seeing things that just makes you smile or just give me an idea. Always, it's a great thing to see, and I try to incorporate that into my world of photography.
Yeah, thank you. And then earlier we were talking about the differences in your landscape and portraiture, and I wanted to talk about the things that were similar to me. And it's like, every time it's like you're occupying a space, everything is so carefully placed as to not cause tension or anxiety, and it's like interwoven or fluid. And I think it's carried over, even though there's like lighting differences, like even the gentleman that you had in the street with the guitar, the way his foot was placed at like a little angle, it wasn't interfering with like the lines, and it was just very smooth. And I just like that attention to detail is inspiring for me. It makes me want to go take portraits.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And do it. Please do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, those are good observations. Tim Hansen, did you have anything? You always have something to say.
Hey, Tim.
In general, yeah, no. Sorry, Garen had to mute. No, I love these. I love the bokeh and the depths of field, and how he gets complete separation from his subject and the background. And my 4x5, I've only been experimenting. In fact, Gordon inspired me to take the landscape chromes that I took and buy the box of Ektachrome, and which was the basis for my dress series in this class. And now I have 4 sheets of 4x5 Ektachrome that I want to take out and shoot the dresses on, just to see what happens. These are so amazing, and I'm wondering what kind of stuff I can do with my 4x5 now. This is like, I want to go out and shoot. I want to just shut the laptop and leave.
Inspiration. That's always a good feeling, really. Yeah, no, have you felt that with other guest artists, Tim?
Jenny Sampson made me want to do it too. And she really started like getting the itch to do large format, because I'd been debating on selling my large format off for other things, for other digital equipment. But now I'm like, I think I may have to expand my 4x5 world, because I mean, this is really reinforcing this kind of things that I want to see in my own work.
Thank you. And yes, please keep shooting 4x5. Don't get rid of it.
Do you have any do you have aspirations for the project?
Me?
Yeah.
I want this out there so people see it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a book or a show somewhere.
Yeah.
I just feel like it started off as just kind of a hobby thing, but it's gotten to the point where I feel like it's saying something and it means something to me.
Oh,
or
yeah.
I want it out there.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna talk to a friend of mine who's, what's it, is she a curator? I guess a curator. And, chat with her and see her thoughts, but I'm slowly doing it, but I want to do it before the pandemic is less impactful in people's lives. I want to do it while it's still impactful,
Oh,
so.
well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I like it in the here and now because I thought it felt like now.
Mhm.
But then I also viewed it as like, man, that's going to be a great archive to look back at in the same way we look at like bodies of work from the 1970s, or, you know what I mean? Like time will help the project too, you know what I mean? So yeah, both of those things really. Yeah, no, it would be, I would go see a show of it. I would buy a book of it. I would do any of those things, you know? Yeah, no, absolutely. So, there was something you had told me once I brought my class to your store. It was about your own background. You didn't study art. You have like a MBA or something like that?
I studied, well, it's funny, I went to college to do art.
Oh, you
but
did?
Not knowing what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do graphic design.
Mhm.
Went to Irvine, UCI, which is the absolutely wrong school to go for something like that. So I ended up being an econ major
Oh,
and stepped away from that path for however long. So it's always been a hobby since then for me.
right. Photography has.
Just art in general, photography
Right.
specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But in between, somehow you suddenly had the store.
Yes. Worked for my dad before I kind of dove back into photography. Did produce, that's where the Bok Choy Boy name comes from.
Oh, okay.
And decided I wouldn't do that anymore. So yeah, that's kind of what I did right before, and didn't know what I wanted to do. So I jumped back at City College just to take a few classes in between jobs and kind of stuck for a while.
Right.
So
Oh, neat.
yeah.
Neat. I mean, I like that because I think that here with all of us students, there's pressure to figure out what you're going to do as soon as you graduate and
Absolutely.
get a job being
Absolutely.
a photographer, whatever that means, as soon as you graduate. And I feel like a lot of the guest artists we have, there was a winding path.
Meandering path.
Yeah, for sure. And it wasn't all like a straight line.
Yeah.
Jenny Sampson is works in the kitchen,
Oh,
a caterer. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then, she made a real parallel to it when she was talking to us, where we said, like, you're the photographer. She's like, I'm not the photographer, I'm the chemical person. Like, I'm into the chemistry of this.
Oh,
And then she's like, well, look, I'm a chef, I'm a caterer. I work with like combining materials all the time to make them work. And so, this was second nature for me, So there's two parallels.
That's interesting.
Kind of were there. Let's see if there's any other questions. Then we'll take a little break.
Yep.
And then come back, and you said you may take a photograph?
I may take a photo, but I also have prints if people want to see prints too.
Oh, that's wonderful. No, we'd love to see those, and we'll find a way to share them with the Zoom audience. For those of you, so those of you on Zoom, do you have any other questions before we take a break?
We'll take after the break, but can we talk, do you develop your own, and can we kind of talk about your development process after the break?
How detailed will we talk about my development process, just generally, or?
But I'll geek out on it, so you can go in depth as you want, but just kind of, what do you use, Rodinol, or is there specific processes you use?
So I do develop all my own black and white color stuff. I usually send out to a lab. I have done color myself, but I don't do enough of it to really justify having chemicals and storing it for that short amount of time that it's still good. My process starts with I use a tank, but not a Joe tank. It's just a basic, I don't know what brand it's Unilever or it's a basic rotary tank that does 8x10 paper, but I could fit 4 sheets in there. I use Alpha 3 for my developer, very basic developer. I don't use Rodinol or any other, sometimes they're too high applicant, so you get more grain in it. What else do you want me to tell you? I have my own darkroom, my own house, so that kind of helps a lot. I could just fill it up anytime I want. I don't, what else you want to know about my development process?
Oh, I mean, that was kind of it. I was just wondering what developer you use, because there's, you can't really see the grain in these, and I don't know whether that's just from the developer or the lens or the because it's a cell phone pic, but they're just unbelievably clear. Even the dust specks. I mean, you see one every once in a while, but like mine are the dust specks are very standout, but these.
Yeah, I can address that.
Easily.
So the reason why there's such fine grain is partly because of the film. Majority of them are FP4. I prefer FP4, but I only shoot HP5 if I don't have enough light. FP4 is, even though it's a traditional grain film, it's a pretty fine grain film. The developer I chose specifically also just because it's a mild developer, so it won't add to the graininess. And I think those two combinations kind of help. As far as the dust, I do kind of like work a little bit on my phone to get rid of the dust. But shooting when it's wet, I shoot when it's wet usually. Or actually, no, I shoot when it's dry. But on a light table, I don't get a lot of dust. So.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I just got an order today in FP4 and FP5. So
Great films. FP4
I've
is
been
really.
loving the FP5. That and something from what's that? The film photography project store, the Frankenstein.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah, it's different.
French tried. I haven't tried that one yet. I'm pretty. Once I find a combo I like, I kind of stick with it.
It's different. Not quite FP5, but for the price, I mean, you get for half the price of a box of 25 FP5, you can get a box of 25 Frankenstein and go out and shoot all day.
Nice.
Interesting. Let's see if the journalist who's here has any questions before we take a break. Tyler, I know you don't have a mic. Do you have any questions you want to put into the chat? I take it no. So, all right, let's take a little break.
Sounds good.
Let's take 15 minutes. Are you good for time?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take 15-minute break, come back, and then I think you'll kind of show us how you do it.
Sure.
All right, great. So, okay, Gordon is here and he brought prints to show us, but why don't we do those at the end? Why don't you show your process here?
Yeah, sure. I can take a picture of the whole class. I haven't thought much about it yet. Why don't we move this guy table out and I'll help you guys stand in the middle here.
Sure. So we'll turn to this.
I think.
The whole class would involve the TV as well.
Oh, you're right.
That's why you gotta come to class.
We have Gordon photo. It's that you guys.
Okay, what, and we'll come to the middle of the room. And let's turn on the lights too, please. Down to. And if you guys, before I start, if you guys want to look through here and see what it looks like,
Oh, yeah.
please do.
And you said this is a what? A gray flat? Right, what is it?
I'm sorry,
The camera is
a speed graphic.
speed graphic.
Yeah, it's an S photography.
Yeah. Sorry.
What's that? Yeah, that's exactly what we use to use. Carry that around.
Here, and we all had support. And it was an extraordinarily heavy camera.
I mean, a lot of people talk about honestly
That's been like.
it's the energy.
Oh, I love that for the brand. I loved it. I love the 4x5 camera. There was like, it's sort of a magicalness to it.
Turns on that side.
Yeah, red cloth to cover.
Yeah, we do.
Here, put that there. Here, you can just push your way.
Oh,
Okay.
that's why.
Wow. This one is
Oh, it
much
is.
better than one that I use.
Shit, I'm leaving the field somewhere.
Wow, you guys
That's
are
coming home
so
from work.
cool.
I feel bad for the Zoom people, they're just sitting there.
Without all the cluster, right?
Coming in.
Oh, you do see the shallow depth of field.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
you usually do that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, you see it, because like Alexis is sharp-ish, and then the TV in the
So
background.
it's more print when it's close up, but you can focus on these. if you want. It's so in the layout. This one. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh, I can focus this close? Wow.
So it makes a difference when someone's closer, right?
Okay, let's see. I look like basically having.
Oh, yeah. This is it here, right?
Yep, right there.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yes.
All right, well, you're in focus now.
Excellent.
Here, I want to see that too, because I think that's the
Yeah.
whole, that's where it starts to look
Yeah.
like one of your pictures, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
I take pictures of the ground glass all the time because I'm so amazed by the way it looks.
It's like, there's a sort of sense of, I said magicality, I don't know, you know, when you look through
Yeah.
there, because it's like, you're peering into something.
Oh, it's so shallow. Oh, that is great. How would I focus?
Keep going forward, keep going forward, and right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
This little thing?
And Tim,
Yeah,
do you want this?
no, I
Okay.
just want to kind of see what I can do.
I've got to the age where my eyes, I can't focus without this because I'm too close to the lens or the ground glass.
Wow, can I snap a picture here?
Sure. you can.
It is, no, the depth of field is great. And you can see it kind of kick in like immediately, you know?
So you
Um,
like this one?
Hey, Tim,
Yes.
so you're able to see the narrow depth of field before you're taking the photo?
Oh, yeah, you're looking right through.
So you could do that, like you do that with someone else's camera.
Yeah.
So, Gordon, right there. Boy, you look good there. That's great. I would encourage everyone to take a look at this, because the shallow depth of field is the whole thing.
I have a thing, but I
Yeah.
must have lost it or left it at the house somewhere.
Oh, a black clock.
Yeah.
Jared, we can go up and do, like, we did that with, I think, someone else who had a big
yeah.
camera, so that they can see on the.
All right, let's see if I can get the
Very
Zoom
cool.
people to see. All right, Zoom people, sorry for the distance orientation.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take a look at it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, no, you did think about doing that.
Give you guys a sense of ideal.
Oh, can we cover it up?
I wish I had my coffee.
Here you
Sorry.
go.
Just throw over this camera here. Can everyone see that ish?
You might have focused though.
It's too dark now. Too dark.
And can you focus?
I'll focus in here. Is it focused, Jerry?
I'm focusing two cameras at once, so.
There. Kevin is.
Hold on,
Kevin,
let me
you
focus.
I focus?
It
Yeah,
looks like
there
it
you
could be
go.
hard to really
There.
tell from that.
Is it focused?
Kind of,
Too hard to see.
but can you all see the depth of field at least?
You guys have to trust us.
Yeah.
Yeah, just try. I don't look through that.
I can't tell.
You can stop.
Oh, there you see.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't tell, but I hope everyone else can tell.
So.
All right.
You out of.
Sorry, Zoom people.
So I'm gonna take a shot. I'm basically gonna have you guys line up almost like triangle
Okay.
behind one person. So-
Triangle?
Okay.
So I want
So
one person to lead. You guys choose. I'm not gonna be the one. to-
Tim, I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
So.
Well, Alexis is the shortest. She should be in the middle. To make the pyramid, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
So I'm gonna direct you. So come, go toward the middle of it. Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah.
So here's the shot.
Oh, do you want us to wear a mask? No, that is a good question. Do you want us to wear?
No, that's fine. I'll wear my mask, how's that?
That's up to you.
Okay. I'm gonna have you guys come like 3 steps closer to me. Actually, right there. Let's do it one second. Let's just come forward. Just like spread, I want to spread out so I can see the field. Because not all you guys are gonna be focused.
So team will be very right?
That's what I want.
Also.
Hey, Tim, are we getting a refund for not being able to experience this?
You could have heard.
Who was saying that? Over?
Over is pretty far though.
You get the 20% Planet Fitness coupon.
I'm gonna change something quickly. Give me a second here. I want to do a little tilt shift. They only do tilt shift one way.
Yeah.
So can we get a rain check so that I'm gonna go buy a plane ticket? I'll be out there in a couple weeks. Come see you.
You can come to the store. I'll take a picture of you anytime.
Oh, done.
There you go.
John is a 4x5 guy.
Excellent.
Hey, I shop at your store, so don't fret. You know, that will happen.
The offer's open to any of you guys that come to my store.
I'll be in tomorrow afternoon.
All right.
You said the offer is good or the offer is good?
Before the end of the semester, I will fly out there just for that.
All right. Squeeze it a little tighter. Okay, that's good. Oh, that's perfect. That's great.
Yeah, stop talking, please.
Okay.
We're composing this image here.
On-site people. What's it look like? Sorry if it's boring for you guys at
Stay
home.
home. Please, they choose stay home.
It's not boring.
I'm gonna do 2 shots, one with a tilt shift and one not.
What's gonna be different? Future.
Tilt shift, like the beautiful thing about having a 4x5, most of the 4x5s have shifts and
Yeah.
movements. So a tilt shift, I'm putting the lens plane this way, right? Whereas the film plane this way.
Yeah,
So the focus is not gonna be flat, like parallel
yeah,
to
yeah.
the film plane.
yeah.
So I might have a focus that goes this way and get everyone on this side focused,
Oh, okay.
but not you
I
guys in
understand.
focus.
Yeah.
okay.
I think that's more for like Steve, right?
Okay,
Who is in focus right now?
what's that?
Who is in focus? Alexis.
Oh, I'm not gonna tell you.
Ah.
You guys all have to look good, you know, that way, you know. Okay. So when I tell you not to move, when I'm focusing, I don't want you to move at all. So you know how short and shallow my depth field is.
Alexis.
You don't have a
I use
stool
it.
or apple box here?
I don't have one. It's all on the 3rd floor.
That's right.
Oh, that's right, because you have
Can
to.
you tell me what I'm looking at? You're a little bit taller than me.
Let's see height.
What do you see?
It's true.
I see 38.
30th? Yeah. 250. Okay. So that's three. Okay, more focus than you guys. Squeeze a little bit more, Christian. Okay, right there, perfect. Okay, this one will have tilt shift on it. Okay, don't move it. Focus. Three, two, one, okay. And you guys relax for a second, I'm going to focus.
You took the first shot?
What's that?
You took the first shot?
All
Wow.
right,
You didn't even know that?
Yeah.
all right, so let me get rid of the tilt shift. So it's like, oh. I'm gonna have you move that way a tad bit. Perfect. Actually, a little bit more. Oh, actually, back this way. Sorry, wrong way. Right there. Tim, go that way a tad. Right there. Perfect. Okay, we're good. Ready? You're focus. Do not move. Three, two, one. Done. That was it.
Wow.
What's there? Turning.
Sure. Don't come back a little. Come back this way. So when I did it, you know, that's like there's curtain and that. This is what
Yeah.
the curtain looks like,
Open it, right? Wow.
right?
So why is it?
Because it's a different tension speeds and different slit sizes. So see the smaller size, bigger size, they open all the way. And that's how I focus.
Oh, okay.
So okay, I go slow. That's the big one. That's open all the way. That's
Yeah,
the bigger. That's the next smallest one.
yeah. That's a more small one.
Mhm. And it goes see.
Is it the focus or is it the
This is a
shutter?
shutter. This
Shutter,
is
shutter,
allowing
okay.
the light to come in. The film.
Ah, far shutter and slow shutter.
Yeah, it
Wow.
slows down open, but also bigger slots so that you can
Have
have more light in. You see?
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's what that is.
Sorry, Zoom.
Gordon, you want to just pan it towards the Zoom people so they know what you're talking
No,
about?
it's
just now?
okay. They don't really know.
Yeah, and then so they know what happened just now. Go and explain it
So
to
you guys
them.
familiar with this camera? Any of you guys familiar? So this is what I'm talking about. This is my rear curtain shutter. That's one slit. And as you go, the tension gets tighter and also smaller slits. So then you get down to that. So when you fire,
Wow. So a very aggressive shutter though, you know what I mean? Like the whole thing, I'm surprised it stays steady enough.
I am too.
Oh, you are?
But it does. And you know, like shooting shots at the field, you know, every movement is
Yeah.
critical. But it's a pretty solid, it's also important to have a solid tripod for this guy too, for that reason.
Even that, when you're watching you make the adjustments and
Mhm.
stuff, it all looks like it's shaking around and stuff
So
like that.
it's when I shoot, that's what's most important, right?
Oh, okay. When you
Right,
shoot it
well,
steady.
like when I'm moving things around, I mean, it's moving, but I'll go back to normal if you have a good tripod.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting compared to like a Hasselblad on a tripod, which is this dense, condensed,
Yeah.
locked into a thing. You know, it's almost like the design keeps it steady or something.
it still moves if you don't have the right tripod.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you guys ready for prints?
Uh,
Oh, you got questions before I do that?
well, let's look at your light. That.
Oh, I'm sorry,
kind of
yeah.
Blew me away.
So, Sure, set it over here.
Oh, we have an extension cord here. Let's turn the light on.
We'll have to do that, let's right now.
Ooh, that looks like we're thinking of Bill Graham. It's in our
It
brain
is.
now.
All right. If you guys have never seen how crazy this movie light is, be prepared.
Oh, wow.
Fancy?
As you
What's
can
that?
see, the lighting is terrifying.
Yeah.
They're really cheap.
Okay, sunglasses. I'm gonna buy it.
You got a key?
They're cheap. She rolled up. They're really cheap. They're really not used for anything anymore. They're originally not made for still photography. They're made for like Super 8, so like movie cameras. So that's why it's continuous. But it's also old technology, so it's not LED or anything. So it's a really, really hot bulb. Right now it's not hot because I haven't had that long. But if I had on for like 5 minutes, it's burns to touch.
Really?
So bright, that blinding thing is what. Yeah, that's what it was like. Can you point it against the wall so we
Yeah.
can see the shape it makes? You
Sure.
know, like,
I don't know if it makes much of a shape, does it?
you see it's like vignetting and stuff like that. Yeah, so it is fairly focused, you know, like from where I am here, I don't know if Jared can see it, but it has a point of concentration and then it
Yes.
vignettes out.
I have learned to embrace harsh lighting for some of my portraits too, which I normally don't like, but like, there's a few portraits, like your portrait's pretty harsh lighting.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've learned to embrace it and not try to diffuse it at all, so.
Well, don't you think that a larger format film handles a harsher light better than like a 35 millimeter
I
film?
think so, yeah, I'm not sure, is technically it's supposed to.
Well,
But-
Tim, you said that also on the, I was trying to give myself a compliment and then you said, no, it's not me, it's the film.
What, say that again?
You said the same thing when I told you that the camera is, my camera, the medium format I'm using is either very forgiving or I'm just an excellent photographer. And you said, no, you're not, it's the film because the medium format is more forgiving on light.
I don't know if my intention was to insult a student, but who my job is to encourage. But film is more forgiving and larger format is more.
What and why is that? I never read or like why would the larger format be more forgiving just because more light can come in because it's just a bigger opening, like a bigger sensor?
I think it's like the comparison would be a bigger sensor, I think. But Gordon or Jared, do you guys have any?
I honestly don't have a real understanding of that part of it. In my head, just thinking like film is film,
Yeah.
that the light hits it should be the same, but I'm not really 100% sure.
Well, you know, we had this guy, John Henry here, who had a project
Uh-huh.
where he photographed people in with a 4x5.
Okay.
And he didn't like, he would just like get these people and photograph them like at noon.
Uh-huh.
And with 4x5, you just accepted it. Where like if we looked at like a 35 millimeter transparency shot at noon, it would just look so contrasty. And so I kind of feel like
That's a good question. I think you should make your students do research on that.
do research on that. Yeah, that should be their final. I think. Yeah. That light is awesome. So
Yep.
you, I mean, obviously you have access to anything you want. Why did you choose that light?
Because it's bright enough, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's intensity.
Intensity. I've had other like LED lights that really don't light up enough, but then I'm sure technology's changed since I first started looking at lights. There's some really brighter LED lights.
Oh, well, it's true that LEDs have a gentleness that like, there was an awareness that you'd have digital, like I think LEDs and digital grew up
Hand in
together,
hand,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
I do like the harshness of it. I think it goes really well with certain looks that you want.
Yeah.
Obviously you can diffuse it, but whatever diffusing material might melt.
Oh, yeah. No, I
So
couldn't-
there's that to think about too. I mean, you know, it's a lot of things I do is about practicality. It was available at the store.
Yeah.
We couldn't sell it, so I took it and I used it.
Ooh,
That's kind of how I work. That's how I roll.
oh, that's very good. That's very good. I mean, did you try other light sources first?
I did, because I tried some of the LEDs. It just wasn't strong enough for me. So if I want to soften it, I usually balance it or something like that.
Right,
So
right. No, it's excellent. I think of it as part of your process, but then also I think as a subject, like, how did you guys feel when the light was shined on you?
It was pretty intense.
it is,
Yeah.
What did you say?
Felt like it was too much light almost.
There is something, I mean, when you photograph me and use that light, suddenly I couldn't see you anymore. And as a subject, you're just in this like, yeah, kind of like blank space. You can't even see the photographer and then you're in your own little
just kind of like on
world.
the stage, right?
I think so, yeah,
That's
where you
it,
can't
yeah.
see the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I think it does
I
contribute.
remember that day. You were pretty blinded that day.
Yeah, it was in awe of it, for sure, for sure. Yeah, let's take a look at your prints.
Absolutely.
And so let's get the lights on. So we'll try to arrange this so the Zoom folks can see this as well.
It's on the way.
Just because it's hard to tell looking at the screen, but what kind of, like, as far as wattage is that light you had?
Say wattage, 650.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it's pretty bright. It does feel really bright when it's in front of you. As your peers can.
Standing in front of a lighthouse.
It is, yeah, no, it's brighter than any strobe or LED experience, or even an airy, you know what I mean? Those larger lights, Yeah, there's a harshness to it for sure.
And what kind of light is that?
It's just a continuous light that it was made for like Super 8s. You wanna take a picture? So it's a simple light. It's not very big, but it just produces a lot of light. It's very intense, very
Probably a
hot.
lot of heat too, goodness. Does it get like hot to the touch?
Oh, when you have it on for more than a few minutes, yes, very hot to touch.
Good.
Like when you're done with it, you want to let it cool off before you put it down or anything.
I would say it's probably illegal if they tried to sell something like that now.
Yeah, it's equivalent to illegal fireworks.
Absolutely.
They probably
Yeah.
bring down airplanes with that thing, 650 watts, goodness.
All right, let's see.
If
what
the
we
neighbor
have.
ever pisses you off, at least you got that one covered, just shine there at their house.
All right, so I'm gonna start with my knife shots. I printed on different papers, so I was experimenting with different papers as I was going along with it.
6x6.
All 6x6 shots, yeah. So no particular order. Some of these you've seen, I think it looks better in print than on the screen,
Wow.
Yeah.
right?
Oh, crazy.
Do you have any paper preference? Because I saw you.
I think we talked a little bit about this. This is the matte. You might like the matte, but see how the blacks are really just sucking the
The
blacks.
shiny makes me so annoying. with these.
What brand is it?
Over.
Oh,
Still make paper?
What's that?
Oriental, does it still make paper?
No, they do not. I don't think so. Foma, I really like Foma. Foma is really good paper, but the problem with Foma is it's hard to get. They're spotty on their on the availability of the papers. So I can't trust them as much as I trust Ilford. But you're welcome to pick them up, play with them. These are all kind of work prints. In no particular order either. So however you want to do it. This is probably one of my favorites of all my night shots.
And what's this paper then? This one is the
This one's a
ochre
matte.
matte?
Matte.
So this
I think
is-
the warm tone.
Okay, yeah, it does feel warm. I love this one.
Looking at.
Something about looking at prints over projected images, right?
Mhm. And then this is ochre gloss.
Yes. I think the other one is some of them might be similar.
So why on some of these knife shots are some on matte and then others on
I was just
gloss?
experimenting with paper. When I
Okay.
first started shooting, I just ordered paper was, actually I did at work originally.
What do you like better for the knife shot?
I like the
depends on-
gloss. I just, because there's so much darkness in there that it gets lost a little bit for me at least. I mean, especially like, let's say a shot like this one here, I think you wouldn't have as much tonality in a matte paper.
So it just kind of depends on the shot.
What's that?
It depends on the shot.
Yeah,
What
and
paper?
I brought some other shots that I think fit better with matte paper for what I like to do.
Okay. This was your favorite?
It's my favorite.
What would make you have a favorite?
You know, I don't know. It's just more a gut feeling. Like the isolation of the tree, the separation, all the technical aspects I don't think about. It's just more, I see it, I love that shot.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah. So there, it is,
I mean, I could break it down, but it's more the gut feeling.
Yeah.
You know.
yeah. Then I noticed that one that we had talked a lot about on camera or during your talk, which was like a playground in front of a giant apartment building.
That's a different shot. Yeah, it's a different.
That's
print.
the-
Yeah, I wanted to bring a picture of this one and show the others. I wanted to see what people think about the two of them.
Yeah,
Which one I like better? Which one did you like better?
I like the one on Zoom because it wasn't as,
You know, the set, this is two center.
yeah. The two-centered makes you think, oh, I got it.
Yeah, I like the lines going out on the one on Zoom. So you have this, the lines that extended across this way. I really liked that too. And then you also have. Right?
I think, I think I agree with both of you. The more I think about it, the more I like the other one. It just, like I said, like I like to put my model straight in the middle sometimes, and I forget to do different variations. So.
I don't think center, there's anything wrong with that. I
No,
just think that.
I totally
when we
agree with you.
compare it, that there's a more interesting dynamic in the other one, right? But if I hadn't seen the other one, I would,
Yeah.
yeah.
These are beautiful.
Thank you.
I hope for the people who Zoom are at least getting somewhat
this
an
is the same-
experience. So sorry.
Same place. I just
Yeah,
pulled
yeah,
back a little
yeah.
bit and I was attracted to the rails. I really
Yeah,
like the
that's
rails.
beautiful. The light on there and the.
Do you go to a certain area in the city for most of it?
I look everywhere. I'm pretty much exhausted.
Where's your like favorite?
Sunset.
Sunset.
I'm
I
in
can
Sunset.
see you, yeah, all of them sunset.
Yeah,
a lot
I
of these are
literally know
sunset.
where you should
Yeah.
go. You go there.
It's one of them.
You're gonna stalk me, huh?
Maybe one night you'll see me and something foggy, people was carrying drawing cameras.
You know, we talk a lot in the class, like different students have different, everyone here has one project they're working on.
Okay.
And everyone's project is different, you know, like, and so we try to talk about different ways you can present the work.
Okay.
And it looks like you're gravitating to this tiny print, which is almost like 6 inches by 6 inches.
I tend to like tiny prints. I don't like, I could feel the small prints. I think each work speaks to a different size. Because of the quietness of my stuff, I like the small where you have to go into the image.
Yeah.
But I tend to, all my images, I don't print very big. I have print 16 by 20, but very few.
Right.
I mostly like 8 by 10, and even that the image is smaller than 8 by 10 sheet, so.
Right. Yeah, the work is so timeless and classic. I think it seems to fit, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Because we talk about, like, one of the students has a project that he's actually laying out like a magazine, and like people, you know, we're encouraging, not everything has to be a framed photograph in a mat on a wall, you know.
No, not at all.
But this project does speak to that, though, you know, like it could, like, that seems like that would be the best way to share.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. If you're done with this, I can move on to the portrait stuff.
It is interesting to separate the projects, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is this fiber business?
I do most of my stuff with fiber.
So what's the between fiber paper and the Apple yesterday?
The difference is the feel of it. You can feel this feels more like paper. The RC has a resin coat. That's what RC stands for, resin coated.
Oh.
So it has actually has a plastic layer on top.
So that one's more feels like I print a photo from Walgreens or Costco. But this
I
one-
mean, somewhat. They're both great. I think depends who you talk to. I think people who are in the artistic world tend to like fiber better. I think there's some real reasons and some, you know, pretentious reasons as well, though. But fiber, I like fiber. I think I just like the way it feels. It's just much better than RC, in my opinion.
Is it also because this one also it's not that thick?
This one here,
Yeah,
no,
fiber is thicker.
theoretically, it should be a tad thicker just because of coating, but I'm not 100% sure, like the specs on them though.
Fiber feels like a sheet of
A big paper.
fabricy paper. Yeah, where RC feels like getting your pictures from Walgreens.
Yeah,
You know.
I think,
But still better than Walgreens.
I think the other difference also, the glossy on fiber, it's a nice glossy. I'm not a big fan of RC glossy.
Oh.
I showed that
Yeah.
with you the other day, where it's super shiny and fingerprints get all over it. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I remember you showing us the example of fiber,
Yeah,
glossy, not just.
so that's RC, fiber glossy right there.
So that's the one.
shiny.
I like another one.
This is all glossy and matte, right? Thank
I
you.
don't want to say semi-gloss. I can't remember what I
Okay.
used. It's been a little while since I printed the other ones. I should have paid attention. But I think most of these are warm tones, so there's a slight warmness to it. Okay, I'll move on to the next series.
Yep. It is, you are the first guest artist we had who has brought prints for us to see. And every guest artist dealt with analog, you know what I mean, on
Oh,
this.
interesting.
And we've had artists here in class, and even let's see. Jenny Sampson did not have prints, I don't think. No. So, yeah, no, it's neat. Yep, she brought her book.
Saying that was too big for the website.
I think so.
That's true. She had a lot of websites. That's right. Did she do the, I showed you that was the skateboarding series?
Skateboard Girls.
Nice. So these are digital prints because I didn't have
Let's
time.
put them this way to look at.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
Camera.
Sure, absolutely. So I think it's really interesting when I lay them out for the first time to see them all together instead of like separated.
You mean, what do you mean esoteric?
Like as a whole, like rather than each one individually on the screen or just showing you one at a time.
Oh, when we see the body of work. and
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
it as
exactly.
one
You see
thing.
more of the body of work. I thought it was really interesting when I first laid it out for myself.
She was wondering how their digital print
Yeah,
from an analog camera.
yeah.
Oh, could you
yeah.
scan it and print it?
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, no, inkjet printer, sorry, inkjet printer.
Oh, okay, okay.
So this is tilt shift. The first one I started playing with tilt shift.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, it's more of an intentional effect
Yes,
than just when you're doing what the camera does.
yes.
Oh, interesting. Let's show that one.
This might have been covered, the question, but what was the difference again between the landscape versus the portrait as far as the proportions are different?
Sure. The landscape is shot with a square camera, a Hasselblad.
Okay,
So you'll get square, and this one is 4x5 format. The portrait series.
okay. I for some reason I thought you were the same, but I got it now. Sorry, I missed that.
Yep, sorry, I didn't explain that very well.
No, that's me. No. I'm
Anyway. So I have a question. I brought these two because I couldn't decide which one I like better. I would love to get your opinion. That one, okay. Why?
It's rare, interesting angle. Actually, this one
I
more,
like the wraparound.
yeah,
The swirl of it?
yeah.
Can you show the two that he's talking to the camera?
Sure.
No,
If someone hands it to me, please.
Sorry about that, people.
So it's asking which one you guys would like better, or which one, want to repeat the question.
Oh, me? So I took those two the same day. I like them both, but obviously I'm not gonna keep them both in the series if I ever just pare it down. So you guys, you guys have an opinion on which one you like better?
I've got opinions about everything. I like the one on the left. I like the one where he's in profile.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
The one where he's in profile.
Oh, okay.
to the
I love the
side.
one on the right.
I can't see which one's on the right. One person or two people?
Two.
Oh,
This is
two.
like-
I think I like the two-person one too, myself.
yeah.
I'm finding, as I ask people, I get a 50-50 split.
Really.
Yeah.
If I was to be the critic
Uh-huh.
teacher, I would be like, well, the one on the left just looks like you're composing, making an interesting composition. Or
I
the
see.
one on the right.
It fits everything else.
Yeah, the one on the
Okay,
right is
fair enough.
like, here are the people
Mhm.
of this movement.
Okay.
And
know,
also
or-
the one on the right is more, you don't know where it is, and so it could be everywhere. And the one on the left, there's a little bit more context, which to me makes it slightly less interesting.
Interesting. Okay, thank
I
you.
would like the one on the right more if they were both, so like he's got a light background behind him. If they both had a light background to where they stood out more, but right now she's so much in shadow that it's
Yeah.
just kind of hard to see the figure. Where the one on the
Okay.
right, it's very clear that it's who he is.
You know, looking at the group, it does change things to me, you know? Like, it does seem like this is San Francisco.
Oh,
It's
that's
so
interesting.
clearly San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
Here's like the avenues, I'm guessing, or something. You know, the bus stop, some of the areas, you know, something here, this looks like the wealth of San Francisco, whether it is or isn't, you know, the vegetation, the architecture. Oops, sorry, like here, what is this? This is the avenues too, I think.
Yes, uh-huh.
But yeah, like it is a picture of San Francisco.
Oh, never thought of that way. That's
You know.
interesting. Okay.
The garages and then the streets, like this couple here. There, I can't think of enough, like, it's definitely not Los Angeles and it's definitely not, you know
It's
what I
not New
mean?
York.
No,
No,
that's
no,
San
no,
Francisco.
This is definitely Bay Area.
Yeah.
San Francisco or East Bay.
Yeah, and I didn't pick up on that when I saw it, yeah, singular image, you know. that doesn't change anything, but it does set it in a time and place, kind of, you know.
Never thought that way. That's interesting observation.
You know, we had another guest artist here who was documenting like the devastation of California, you know, where it was the drought of California, the homelessness of California.
Oh, that's interesting.
The
Okay.
fire of California. And, you know, I think in his eyes, it was important for it to be all of California, you know, here is our state, you know what I mean? And I'm not tying it to this, the work is very different, but, oh, I even think of some of the students' projects, like Andrew has a project where he's trying to define his day.
Mhm.
And then he wanted to have some images in it where he went to San Diego and partied with his friends. And and I think in class we were debating, does it look like it's of the same project or not? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And we didn't really come up with an answer, but there is sometimes when things are all done in a place that you have a local knowledge of, it does have, they feel different.
Right, I see what you're saying. Very true. And after this, I do have like one more set of prints, a smaller set that I wanted to show you, because I want to show you the pinhole on matte paper and how that feels.
Yeah, okay.
I would love to see that. So you folks who are at home on Zoom, I am sorry you're missing this. Do you want to direct Jared to show you anything better or something like that?
Jerry says no.
I wish that you could kind of see these.
I can show you guys the ones that were not on the slide, so at least you guys get something.
Yeah, there's a lot here that we're, what are we looking at right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 45 images right here. And then we saw like 45 images on the slideshow.
Some of them were similar.
Yeah. But that hockey one, I like that a lot. And that was not in there.
This was in there, Troy's.
Troy Holden, he's a pretty well-known street photographer in San Francisco.
What's his name?
Troy Holden.
Oh, I don't know him.
Oh, you should check him out. What's that?
Famous one?
Oh, I know him.
Kind of famous.
Yeah.
I mean, he's well-known among certain crowds.
Did you go to the event that he was holding, the film?
No,
Okay.
what event was that?
Alan, right?
What's that?
No, not Alan. What's his name? No, he's not Troy. He's
One more. I might be interested to that.
I love that one.
What's his last name? Troy? Holden, Holden, Holden. He does a lot of like crazy street scenes. Although during the pandemic, not so much, not so much, but.
You know that skater photographer who's kind of famous from here? He's got a fake name like Ando. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I might know him, but I don't know him by name, maybe.
Oh, yeah, I'll look it up. He's he kind of has a skateboard background, but great photographer.
Oh,
Not for
really?
shooting skating stuff. just for
Oh,
shooting
okay,
all stuff.
okay. Oh, no, I'm not sure then.
Indonesia. I'll look him up.
Okay, yeah, let's see what that is.
I mean, I'm thinking it's like Bok Choy. He's got a name,
Oh,
you know, I'm remembering his Instagram name. more than
I hear
his
you.
real name.
why it looks like
Troy Holden. As when I want to see, I did some stuff on chat. So
Oh, okay.
I'm
Let
not
me see what
sure.
you're saying.
Is
This
this
probably very-
is private?
Oh.
This presentation.
must
is-
have just
we
gone
wanted
private for a
to
day or
have
something.
So if you add them, yeah, I can show you my thing.
wait,
Everybody wants a
sure,
4x5.
no, but I don't think.
I know where you can buy one.
Let's move on to your next project.
Sure. Give me one quick second here. Oh, I wonder if I haven't seen, no, I haven't seen anything from them. So, I'll just show you that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
The other one's not really a project. I just brought a few prints to show.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
So these are.
Uh-huh.
They're not.
No,
It's just a little bit
the-
smaller, right? Those are 4x.
there's 4x6, I think.
Mhm.
They're just cut in quarters, right? A regular sheet cut in quarters.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's 4x5, then, right? Because 8x10 or 8.5.
You have some that are just great portraits. You know what I mean? Like, this is just a great, like, body language informed.
That is the same location as this one, by the way.
Oh,
I was
seriously?
wondering, I was gonna ask this, but what-
It's her husband.
Because the windows look the same.
Yeah. And that picture in the background, it's a picture of Harry Houdini.
Oh, really?
No, funny.
She's telling me that story. I was there. She's like, yes, you did. Yes, you did. I'm like, I don't know.
No, what's that?
Are you familiar with
Right in there.
Eric Arbach?
No, who's that?
He is a head of a program called First Exposures. They teach underprivileged youth photography.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, he's a great guy. You should-
In San Francisco?
In San Francisco. They just got a new location down by Missionary.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's very cool. No, I'll hit you up for information about it.
Yeah, really, really nice guy. You should get to know. I can introduce you if you want.
Yeah.
All right, final prints. Final prints are non-serious, just prints. Randomly through things in here, so they didn't really. So these are mostly pinhole stuff. This is my life before doing portraits and stuff. But you can see how on that paper it's very different feeling.
Yes.
So I guess that is kind of a series.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Oh, these are beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
They open hard.
How long is the exposure with the pinhole?
Minimum 3 seconds for my camera. It depends obviously on how much light, but bright daylight, 3 seconds.
That's magical.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
What is the pinhole you're using?
My main one I use is called a zero image, made in Hong Kong. Mine is a 6x9 that can convert to a 6.7, 6.6, 6.45.
Wow.
It's a simple camera, as most pinholes are. I should have brought it. I didn't think about it, but it's a nice little box camera. That's all it is.
Oh,
That's
is
nice
it made
and
out of
fat.
wood?
Made out of wood, yes.
I think I had that. I mean, I played with pinholes at another period in my life.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so it is that, because there's a million different pinholes, and then
There are.
everybody makes pinholes and
Yep.
stuff like that. Oh, so this takes film, and these are enlargements from film.
Yes, correct.
It's expensive.
Pinholes? No, they're cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, they can be cheap.
What was the name?
Somewhere,
Zero what?
zero image.
Do they still make them?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have this stuff? Like, do you?
I don't. You can find new. I think the one I have is like maybe 250, so it's not cheap. There were a lot of cheap ones. I'll bring to the store with you. Just let me know when you come back
Okay.
and I'll bring mine.
So here's a question we ask everybody who comes in to share a project. Is like, you know, there's this idea that it's very hard for photographers to know when to end the project. You know, when do you have enough? When is it time to move on to the next thing? And, you know, and I have a belief that it's very hard to end a project because then you have to do something else. You know what I mean? Like keeping up the momentum of a project you already have is more comfortable, and it's easier to put one foot in front of the other and continue doing that. Do you have any reflections on that?
I do. I think there's two things that kind of dictate when I end a project. The first one is obviously when I get bored with it, right? I feel like I've done what I want. I'm not putting any more creative energy into it to make it grow,
Yeah.
right? And the second really is like what you said, when I come across a new project, I'm excited about that. And then I'm ready to move on. And I think those are the two situations for me when I know when to end a project.
Right.
Like this pinhole project, I was doing so many pinhole projects for a long time. And then I started shooting people. I had a pinhole project with another group of friends of mine, or it's a photo project where we had a hotel room for the whole weekend. Everyone would sign up for 1 hour to shoot, and then at the end we'll have a show.
Oh, how cool.
It was amazing. So I'm saying like, well, I'm a pinhole artist. What the heck am I gonna do in a hotel room that's gonna be interesting, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to shoot a person. I brought my friend in. I gave her a mask, and ever since then, I just love shooting people. It just changed my world right there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I mean, it just, I think everyone's a little bit different, but for me, those are the two things that kind of dictate when I might want to end a project.
Right. Right. What if you don't have the next project?
Then that's when I go through my 5-year loan.
Oh, no. Yeah. 5-year walk through the desert.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. No, that happens for sure.
It sure does. I think, if you have the passion for photography, it'll come back. It's, you take a break. Sometimes it's necessary too, I think.
Sometimes what?
I think it's necessary sometimes,
Oh, to
Step
stop.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I encourage students to live and breathe photography, but I think what you're talking about comes later in life.
I think so.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
now enthusiasm is high and everybody wants to
Absolutely.
discover everything. And,
Absolutely.
and there is a point where suddenly you're like, what? I did that. What do I do now? You know what I mean?
And you just have to have faith that, it'll come back.
Yeah. These are beautiful.
Thank you.
These are beautiful.
A different side of my work.
This is also the Ilford paper?
That is for matte. So these are all matte, and I think these are warm tone. They're not well washed prints. Either one of the two.
The matte has a murkier vibe
Mhm.
than the fiber-based glosses. Fiber-based glossy, I always liked, and I liked it in your first print that you showed. Yeah, the matte, I could never get the black I wanted, really. You know
No,
what I mean?
and then that's the thing about matte paper. Your blacks will be a murky black, not a solid black or
Yeah.
a deep black, and you also lose your detail in the blacks too, right? Like whereas black glossy, you have more details in the black.
Right.
So, but I think for this image, this body of work, or just pinhole in general, I felt like the softness of a matte paper fit well with the softness of my images.
Right.
So that's why I chose matte paper for this body of work.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
Hey, Gordon, I can't hear over Zoom, but you keep using my name, which I know you're not. So what is it you're calling it?
Matte paper?
No.
Oh, Ilford.
Ilford.
I can't hear I'm sorry. What
Ilford?
somebody-
Ilford.
Oh, Elford. Okay. Okay. I was like, why does he keep calling it Ilford?
I have my mask on.
Okay. Got it. Thank you, Elford. Okay.
Just to read to you what's going on here.
Yeah.
To give you a snapshot. This presentation has me wanting to get out and shoot, and that's at least one good thing. Yes, I need to order a few boxes of Ilford. Now I am determined to get one good 4x5 shot. Going to have to really start paying attention to settings.
That's
That's
how we
John
tune.
Rogers, who has many good 4x5 shots. David Corey says, I'm in love with these. What are you talking about, David?
Oh, just like all the pinhole stuff and the form. I just this work. I love it. It's I think that like the huge bokeh with the f-stop available on that camera, and then these pinholes, they really have the same vibe. It's just super cool. Love it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you would like David's work too. There's
Yeah?
definitely overlaps. Yeah,
Nice.
for sure.
Love to see his work.
And then David Corey says, pinhole en route. Just wish the world wasn't so slow with materials and shipping.
Agreed.
Yeah.
David, you were surfing the internet while you should have been in class.
Well, of course, I'm being motivated by this artist right here. This guy's great. And one of my favorite pictures was on his Instagram. It has a girl holding up a mirror.
Oh, one of my recent ones.
Oh, I love that one. So good.
Your recent stuff has gotten more like you're trying to make art. Would you agree?
So that that work has always been there.
Yeah.
If you look back far enough, that kind of work has been there. I got sidetracked during COVID, or even before that for the lull. But I feel like I'm trying to work my way back to that kind of work.
Oh, so you feel that I'm trying to find it here
Sure,
for everyone. I don't know if we are signed into.
Oh, by the way, I'm also a little toy that comes in one of the 25% sheet things.
Yeah,
There you go.
here you are. Gordon. I'm gonna try to share this.
Some of my most recent stuff that's, it's kind of closer to what I used to shoot before I had my little goal.
Oh, it's this image with the, oh, it's making me log in. Yeah, that mirror image. So you feel like you used to do things that were more intentionally metaphorical like that.
Somewhat. I mean, it was more than just a portrait, back then.
Yeah, like it seems like it's more intentionally mysterious.
I think a new series I'm trying to work with, at least thinking about, is something called Hidden in Plain Sight.
Hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, and I'm not going to explain it because I'll more to come down the road. I'm still figuring out myself.
Maintain that mystery.
Yes.
I like it. I like it.
When are you gonna upload the Mexico pictures?
Yeah, we were like, wait, what, we can't get it.
I have it on my Facebook page. I kind of curate this page to be more my art stuff. I have a lot of Mexico pictures that it's more of a vloggy images. I didn't hate to say this, I didn't take a lot of pictures around Mexico simply because I was discouraged. I had to take my film out and it went through the X-ray. So I kept thinking, oh, it's ruined. So I wasn't very motivated to take pictures. Little did I know that didn't affect it at all. So,
Oh, seriously?
yeah.
Oh,
Luckily, I was lucky at that time. It didn't affect it. So I'll post it somewhere. I have black and whites I did shoot. And then I have my portraits. I did very few of them. That's pretty much it for the portraits. I brought my Rolleiflex. That's usually my travel camera. Simple and easy. Like, so I brought that in digital, which I didn't take out. So why is Black Toy Boy?
Yeah.
My family business was selling toy.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So you can take film through the X-ray machine at the airport? Because
I definitely don't recommend it. A lot of the newer machines are stronger now. So, the old school machines are kind of boxy, the ones that we're all used to. I believe the new ones are kind of rounded a little bit. So Kodak did a test and they said that it ruined all the film. Doesn't matter if ISO anymore. Before it was 800 above. They recommended to hand check. Now it's all of it if you go through that machine.
I've run through and I've gotten a wave file.
That's X-ray wave.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, you can get that, or you can also get fogged a little bit too.
Oh.
So
Interesting. You have been very generous with your time.
oh, no problem.
Very generous. And this was wonderful to see things, to see the work, but then to see the things intangible and your old fashioned equipment and then the amazing images that it creates. And seeing the prints was absolutely great.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's give a round of applause. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
I wanted you to come and talk to our class for 5 years.
For 5 years.
I think so. Yeah, I begged.